Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. Super stoked to have an amazing panel of absolute legends. I've been super excited for this for quite some time. Thank you so much to the Redactive Live guys. They've spent an incredible amount of time putting this together, and so I'm very grateful to be here and very excited to kick off this amazing panel. My name is Hassan Sheikh. I'm with Stratosphere and very glad to be here with so many amazing leaders of this industry, and we're going to have a great conversation.
To kind of kick off the intros, I'm Luca Netz. I'm the CEO of Pudgy Penguins, and I'll hand it off to V.
Hi everyone, I'm V. I'm the CEO of World of Women, and I was with Pudgy before, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
And I'm Oliver Maroney, Head of Business Development at OpenSea, the NFT marketplace that you guys know of, now the place for everything on-chain.
Pleasure to meet you all. My name is Tommy. I'm with Fight ID. We're official sponsors with UFC.
Amazing. Look, I think it's no surprise to have a panel, the IP Supercycle, because we all know how much of an impact, IP has had really in crypto. And I'm super excited to hear all of the perspectives from all of these industry leaders because they've been so instrumental in actually pushing this narrative, right? And so I just want to start off with a super simple question. The name of the panel is IP Supercycle. What does that mean to you guys, right? Luca, we'll start with you. What does the IP Supercycle mean to you?
Yeah, I think when you look at IP and crypto and understand what it brings to the industry, I think it fills a super needed void. And so when I think about that void, I think about what in crypto can bring the family together, what in crypto can bring women en masse to the industry, what in crypto speaks to all demographics and age ranges, both in the East, in the West, and everywhere in between. And I think IP fills that void. When you think about meeting the consumer where they are, meeting them in a place that is not only financially attractive, because I think that's the promise of crypto, but actually emotionally attractive, I think IP is probably the only thing that this space can provide that I think actually meets consumers at their heart and mind. And I think that's the role that I think a lot of us are playing here up on stage, is giving consumers something that is obviously, financially palatable from a, perspective of, it's everything in crypto, but also, really emotionally driven. And so I think from our perspective, IP is super important. If crypto is going to be for everyone and it is the new iteration of the internet, almost everything in life and in the world is predicated around IP. And I think it's one of those categories that I think you've seen in the past have huge PMF. Look at what NFTs did for Ethereum. Look at what meme coins did for Solana. No matter how many ways you skin the cat, it all comes back to culture. And IP is the precursor to culture.
V.
No, I agree. I mean, I think IP is one of those things that transcends everything, all markets, all genders, any age range. So yeah, and if you look at NFTs, especially NFTs, I think Pudgy has done an amazing job at proving the world that IP is the one of the few things that can, again, transcend everything. And if you look at NFTs, it started as what? As art, as ownership, as culture, as identity, but really what sticks with people. Culture and utility and identity is good, but it's your entry point. It's not the reason why people will stay with you long term. The reason why people will stay with you long term and come back to you on NFT or your project is because the emotional connection you created with them. And I think IP is very good for that. It's a great example. So as long as you create something that has an emotional connection power, where you can connect your NFT, your company with the end user, then you have the potential to create a long-term company. And Disney is a very good example of that. Disney has been able to build what we call parasocial bonding, which is basically your end user bonding across, like as growing up, bonding with the characters. And now we see parents really, we all like, I want my children to fall in love with the same characters that, I fell in love with. And now I'm going to put them in front of the TV and they're going to watch that movie that I love so much and they're going to fall in love with it. And parasocial bonding, emotional bonding is very, very powerful. And I think IP is a very good example of doing that properly and successfully.
Yeah, I mean, both great answers. I think to add to this, I look at like the Web3 and on-chain lens of what IP represents in this space. And I feel like what is really interesting about what Web3 and blockchain and on-chain really represents is its own core community, which is very similar to IP in a lot of senses, in the sense that when I have an attachment emotional to something, similar to like a lot of people that are in this space today, you feel something different, right? You have that kind of attachment. And so I actually look at Web3 IP that has transcended into Web2 as like supercharged. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you can take this, but one thing I look at is just if you have a community that is invested in kind of what you are doing and they love the IP and resonate with it, that is something I think that you can't replicate in other markets today. And I think that's what has brought some of these brands to life that you see on the stage. And again, they've done their things in big box retail. We talk about Pudgy and Walmart or other things like that, or Bear Brick, or I could go on and on and on, but I do think that the inherent technology under this is really powerful, and it's a powerful tool to get people to resonate with this at a level that we have not really seen before. And I think there are levels that we still have yet to achieve in that format.
I totally agree, actually, with what he said. And speaking on the point of levels, which is really interesting, I think that there's actually many different ways to define IP, and it's kind of defined in tiers. I would probably say the most spineless version would be fungible IP. That's more like meme coins. You could probably call them IP coins in a sense. But if you think about it, IP is kind of a collection of culture. And when you think of meme coins, it's a bit spineless in the sense that the backbone of it is not on a concrete product, it's not on a concrete brand, but an idea, a community, a vision. And I think that that's kind of the most basic tier. And then you move on to more concrete ones. Web3 brands that extend and supersede what they were originally founded for. We have the legends of Pudgy Penguins like that, kind of expanding towards the real world, the Walmarts of the world. And lastly, we have the Web3 coming into Web2. And I think that's where a lot of innovation still lies to be explored. Obviously, a lot of fight fans in the space are also crypto fans. It's not a coincidence. A lot of sports bettors are crypto fans. It's not a coincidence. So I think that within these tiers, finding which ones are the most interesting and the most compelling in the long term is probably what's going to be interesting for the future.
Absolutely. I think those are some amazing answers. And, for anybody who might not be familiar with any of these speakers, I mean, this is a star-studded group who's really innovating and leading what IP means for the future. We have Luca Netz from Pudgy Penguins, right? He acquired Pudgy Penguins for millions of dollars years ago. And rather than creating an NFT project and going out there and monetizing, he had purchased something because he had a bigger vision for it, and he really wanted to be a trailblazer. I'm super, super stoked to be able to say that, he has achieved that, and I think he has a lot more that he wants to achieve. I know V is doing amazing things with World of Women. She recently, became the CEO of World of Women, and that's been a very, I think, nostalgic and historic IP in this space. Oliver from OpenSea. I mean, everybody, if you're in crypto, OpenSea. Even if you're not in crypto, OpenSea. And so, Oliver, the head of business development there, and then Tommy, who's doing growth for Fight, which recently just launched a token, actually, with a $250 million FDV. It's quite incredible to be able to hear, their perspectives, and I think these are the best people to be able to hear from. That being said, I think we are at a place now where AI is changing the world, and I think development is becoming more dime a dozen because anybody can go fork a blockchain like that now, right? Times have changed. And I think the real innovation in crypto moving forward is really going to be on the IP side. That's why, with Stratosphere, we run, a marketing firm. We work with so many different IPs. It's a very important part of our portfolio. The reason why is because we actually feel that the future is going to be with IP. The back end, that from a development standpoint is becoming a commodity, right? Like now almost anybody can go spin that type of stuff up. Now I'm not saying there's not going to be technological innovation, but I think the most opportunity is really on the distribution and the IP side. And I'm sure some of you may agree, some of you may not. And I'm very curious to hear your guys' perspective, both on distribution and the impact that IP has there. But moving into the age of AI, what role do you see IP playing with AI? Like, what's that cross section? What does the future look like with IP in an age of AI?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I got a lot of shit for basically telling everybody that this L1 and L2 and these new innovative tech stacks that everyone was championing was a game of silly goose. And people were going around in circles, doing something that I felt like was ultimately going to fail. And here we are today, right? Tech is not a moat. Claude Code can take any link that I send it and copy it within a couple of days, couple hours. If it's really robust, maybe it takes a week and a couple extra grand in tokens to get it through. But the point of the matter is distribution, community, UX UI is still a little bit of a moat, right? So customer experience. So if I were to say like the 3 moats, this is applicable across all industries, so take the alpha as you want, but distribution, community, and user experience are the 3 moats today. There's nothing else that you could be doing on the back end. So if anyone's trying to sell you tech or faster this or faster that, that might have worked 4 or 5 years ago. It shouldn't be working today. And if it's working today, I would say you should challenge yourself because you shouldn't be gullible. But I think ultimately, in a world where I think these things are so prevalent, that's why I thought what we were doing at Pudgy was so big, because I think we have the biggest and best community in crypto. And with the biggest and best community in crypto, we have also the biggest distribution in crypto. I think it'd be really hard for anybody to argue that, though, we could argue first place or second place, I think everyone would come to the agreement that Pudgy Penguins is one of the 3 biggest communities in the space. And with that comes huge distribution. And with huge distribution comes huge responsibility. And I think we've been able to capture that distribution and capture that community because we have a brand and an identity that people really resonate with, that people identify with. And I think that's the beauty of IP, right? And so rather than selling you on some novel tech innovation that today AI can replicate, we're selling the emotional aspect of the business. And so on its face, you might think, what does emotional resonance mean to me? To address the elephant in the room, everybody wants to invest in things and for those things to go up. Obviously, this is a Wall Street bets conference, so the elephant in the room is a lot of people here want to make money. The proxy of making money, whether it's stocks or whether it's crypto, really fundamentally comes down to a simple concept that I think everyone understands, which is supply and demand. The supply side, if people are emotionally resonating with something, what do? Well, they're not sellers, right? And so when the demand curves hit, you have less people on the other side of it selling because they have emotional resonance. And so no matter how many ways you skin the cat, I think the world of IP is only going to get bigger in a world where AI is removing a ton of different jobs. I think the entertainment industry is going to go up and to the right. People are going to make maybe a little bit less money, maybe the same money, maybe more money doing less work. I think that is obviously what is happening. And where is all that extra time going to go? It's going to go into consuming things, TCG cards, products, going to movies, watching TV, all of these things. Pudgy Penguin Services, right? We sell TCG cards, we sell products, we'll have movies and TV shows and video games. And I think that's a pretty obvious, logical thing that, again, remove Pudgy Penguins from the equation. I think the entertainment business, the IP business, the business of capturing people's attention is quite literally going to go up and to the right via a parabolic curve. So I think all businesses that are catering to that obvious gap that's going to be created here, that's happening in real time, are going to win significantly. So if I was you guys, I'd really pay attention as to who's filling that void, whether it's in crypto or outside of crypto. And That's kind of my take on AI and IP in the future.
I mean, great take. I would concur with that. But even if you take a step back and not only look at IP, if you look at Web3 as a whole, I truly believe when I'm being asked what is the future of Web3, I truly believe Web3 has to disappear to go mainstream. And what I mean by that is we've been trying to force people to learn Web3, right? Trying to make them understand how to use a wallet, what is a blockchain, what are tokens, why do you have even tokens, right? And the truth of the matter is that humans are lazy. You're not going to force anybody to learn something they do not want to learn. We're all lazy, aren't we? We're all lazy. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So I think the only way you get, the mainstream to adopt Web3 is by creating products that works for them, that makes their life simple, right? Or even more simple. And by that, I mean that allows them to be even more lazy. Exactly. So, for me, when I think about Web3 and AI, I think about Web3 should be your back end. We need Web3 because Web3 allows us to have ownership and trust in place, right? We all want that. But the front end of it should be user-friendly and approachable and accessible to everybody. And that is what AI allows us to do. AI is intelligence, AI is thinking, but is centralized control. So by combining the two, you've got to create an intelligent system that is easy to use for the end user. So when I think about, AI, obviously AI in IP is just like a no-brainer. We're all gonna have to use it in Web3 or Web2. But even like taking a step back and looking at our industry as a whole, we will need to combine them both. And I think that's the future of our industry. We'll need AI to allow us to tap into mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points. I think, from the tech side of things, just to touch on that really quickly, I do think that, even at OpenSea, we tried really hard over the last 6 months, a year, to rebuild our platform so everything is cross-chain. You don't know exactly on the surface what exactly you're getting from a blockchain perspective. You're just buying something that you like. And I actually want to bring that statement back to the IP conversation because I think that is actually what is true about the best IP in the world. Whether it be a Pudgy Penguins or a World of Women or whether it be a Disney, it is actually about what resonates with people when they look at it, see it at action. And I'll use like a couple of examples very briefly. I have 2 kids, one's 10, one's 7. And the minute they go into a Pop Mart, they are excited about this blind box versus this blind box and this brand that just got entered into Pop Mart versus something else. And I'll use the same example again with the Bear Brick and Pudgy collaboration. And the reason I'm using this is because it's very relevant to this panel, but secondly, my kids watch like FaZe Rug. They watch some of the biggest streamers in the world. And in their backgrounds or in their YouTube videos, all they see is Bear Brick and some of these other brands that are out there that have been around for years and years and years and are cool. My kids now think they're cool. And so when Pudgy does a collaboration with Bear Brick, they're like, Pudgy Penguins, Bear Brick, that is it. When kids can realize, when people that are in this space can realize, like, that's something I like and that's something maybe I don't resonate with, that is the power of IP at work. And I think at OpenSea, we do a very good job of surfacing this stuff on our homepage, other places, try and give people that color and intel and to make it as easy as possible for you to purchase it. But on the IP and the AI front, as we were discussing and kind of going through this conversation, I think you're going to see it continue to iterate like you've seen with Zora and Disney and some of these other actions that have happened. But it does start with IP. It starts with the actual brand, the characters, the things that you are putting together, the traits that people say, yes, that's me. I see myself with that. And it comes by the brand itself and the brand placement that you place with it. And that comes with collaborations and things that bring people from the outside in.
Totally agree. I mean, I also actually watch FaZe Rug, but I'm
was
not a kid.
amazing.
I'm not a kid. But yeah, I mean, I think my main answer to the question would be actually related to what Luca said. I actually think Luca was being too humble. I think Pengu and Pudgy Penguins in general is a #1 Web3 brand. And I think the reason is because their community is one of the best and biggest. And so when I think about AI introducing and coming into crypto versus IP, I kind of think about it, what's finite and infinite. And so when you think about IP, I actually think IP is infinite. There's just a multitude of different things. You can have AI slop on this. You could have a hot dog jumping over a bridge. There's just many, many different things you could do that obviously expands and scales. But there's a finite amount of people you could serve. There's only a finite amount of community members. And so I think that's how I generally think about things. I think for us, right, it's like fighting fans, MMA fans, they're global. I think people love seeing other people beat up other people just globally. You have a Japanese version, you have an American version, probably more American than not, but you have these fighters all around the world that are interested and very excited, and I think the TAM for that is very, very wide. And same for penguins, right? Like, penguins are universal. You don't have, penguins aren't racist. You got penguins, I see penguins in Tokyo, I see penguins in America. I think penguins are everywhere, and maybe that's a marketing, from Stratosphere, but I think in general, I think it's more about community, and I think it's more about how many finite community members you can capture, and I think that is what AI doesn't really have a grasp over yet.
Yeah, I think these are some amazing answers. And on the topic of bear bricks, Oliver was just mentioning, we have a ton of bear bricks in the back there that we're bringing in. Just messing with you guys. We don't have any today.
I was
But
like, what?
next time, Luca's going to bring us some bear bricks. Because I haven't even got one myself. I do have a little bit of a... See, you guys all woke up from that. I'm glad that we're awake now. I have a really controversial question. It might be controversial, it might not. We got 7 minutes left here, and I am going to ask you guys for a round of alpha, quick alpha. I know you guys are all cooking so many things. We need a little bit for everybody. But I think this is going to really resonate with a lot of the builders, because you guys have all done so many amazing things, trailblazing this industry and seen so many things. Is there room for more crypto native IP, or do we just have to rely on the incumbents? Why or why not? And if yes, or if there is a builder who's hungry to build a new crypto native IP, what do they have to do? And the reason why I ask this question, because everybody who's succeeding, they feel like incumbents, right? We saw thousands, if not millions, of IPs created during the NFT boom. And, Luca acquired Pudgy, V with World of Woman, Moonbirds with Spencer, right? It's like this recovery type arc. And, there's so much power in that for the communities. But does that mean there's no more room for new, fresh blood? Is it possible? Is it not? What are your perspectives on that?
Yeah, it's totally possible. And I think, look, the last time Pokemon and sports cards were going as crazy as they are, for those who are not familiar, it's like every day the Pokemon card is worth more than it was yesterday. NFTs ran pretty crazy. And so I think if there was ever a time to get back into NFTs, to mint that project, to put 2 feet on the ground and get going, I think now would be the time, because I definitely don't think you want to be that guy chasing the hype train again, because I think it will come back. And I think that because it's just too fun. It always was fun. For those of you guys who experienced it, nothing in crypto was as fun as minting an NFT and hitting a super rare and selling it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It really just was a great experience. And you're seeing that experience today in sports cards, like we saw 4 years ago. And so sports cards and Pokemon cards led the train, and then it kind of ended with the digital renaissance. Sports cards and Pokemon cards are leading the train again. And so, and if it's not an NFT, memes, I think I have one take to this, and I'm going to be very quick because I know I can ramble. But, memes are super interesting because they, up until this point, or up until Pengu, I believe, people had this idea that meme coins should do nothing and that they are just non-sentient, lackadaisical builds where just the community champions. I really want you guys to hold me accountable, and I hope I inspire others to go and build memes to this light. But at one point, Pudgy Penguins was worth more than Star Wars. That is not something I take lightly. That's something I take with great responsibility. And I think that memes should be movies, they should be TV shows, they should be video games, they should be products on the world's biggest retailers like Walmart and Target. They should be trading cards, they should be collaborating with the McDonald's of the world and the Bear Bricks of the world. They should do the biggest and best collaborations. And memes can be that. And the one thing I'll leave you guys with before I hand it off was, I always thought to myself, if Doge had an operator, would Doge be more valuable than what it is today? And I think the answer is unequivocally yes. Because when you put things in movies and TV and on shelves and with, adjacent to the biggest brands, that just makes people more emotionally attached. It creates more eyeballs and then ultimately feeds into that supply and demand curve, which I mentioned just a minute ago.
It sounds like culture. That's all culture. V, would love to hear your take.
On culture? No, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because you're not going to like the answer. So I'm not going to talk about culture, but the initial question was, if you come into our space, is there any space for new IPs? I think we said it earlier. I think Tommy said it. It's endless, right? The universe of IP is endless because everybody will resonate with a character differently. And so you can create a brand new character that doesn't exist tomorrow that may resonate with like someone in Hong Kong or someone in Singapore or someone in Canada. It doesn't matter. The potential of IP is really infinite because it really depends on each person. And I think it's Tommy or Oliver, I think Oliver said it very well, is that it's all about how you feel when you look at a character or when you look at a universe, right? Harry Potter is also a very good example of that. People are not only in love with the characters, they're in love with the universe, with the world that this author has created, that we all want to be part of, right? Let's go escape to Harry Potter land. But if I had to, okay, so here's an interesting take. I think in our world, in NFTs, I think when it comes to IP, you have a few IPs that are very dominant. And I think, I think back about my days at Pudgy, and I think what we built there is tremendous, and I'm very proud what we did. And so
Woo!
if I had to think to myself, okay, am I gonna go into NFTs and build another IP? I would say no, because Luca's made an amazing playbook. So you're competing with people that already has 3 years of hard work with a set playbook. And so if you look at the entire space when it comes to IPs, NFTs, NFTs, they're all following the same playbook that we built. And so, you have to compete with the best. So when it comes to when I took over World of Women, that was exactly my question. Is like, yes, we have a legacy IP that everybody recognizes. When they look at a World of Women NFT, they know what it is, most of the people, because, we made 500 million in sales, and that is enormous in our space, right? We're still a legacy, even though we've lost a little bit of relevance because of the last team, we're still a legacy and we're still recognizable to everybody in our space. But that is exactly the question I was asking myself. Is like, do I want to compete with Pudgy? Do I want to compete with Kleinos? Which, by the way, I think they're doing an amazing job. The IP is really good. And my answer was like, no. Let them do what they do best. I do not want to compete with that. What we are building at World of Women, and the way I thought about it is, I'm not going to build it around IP, which is having people falling in love with a character. I'm going to build it around a mission. And all my products will be built around the mission, which is bringing people together. And in a sense, I thought this is also more, unlimited, because IP is very straightforward. To build an IP, you have to follow content creation first, distribution second, and then you can monetize on it by doing merch, right? Only a few people have been able to do it the other way around, and I think we mentioned Labubu. Labubu is a very good example of that. They started as merch, and now they're reversing, right? Like they did merch, they had the distribution channel, and now they're doing content. But that's like an exception. Not everybody can do that. Most people do it reverse, and that's what Pudgy did. So yeah, I think IP is great, but you have to understand what you are competing with. So that's why for World of Women it's different.
Absolutely, and we need that World of Women comeback, so we couldn't be more happy.
It's
to have you at the
happening.
house.
It's happening. Wait for it.
Let's do it. All right, Oliver and Tommy, and then we're going to do a super fast lightning round for some alpha, so get ready.
Yeah.
We're gonna have 5 seconds of alpha from everybody, especially
I think
Oliver.
the answer is yes to both of these, to Luca and V. The answer is yes. I think it's twofold really quickly. I think one, again, you need an IP that resonates. Sometimes that's luck. Sometimes that's a bit of thought and artwork and the pieces that you put together and how they are framed. Sometimes that's content creation around that IP initially that gets people hooked or interested. And then the second piece of this that I think you absolutely have to have is you have to have a mentality like some of these people up here where you are ruthless about getting brand placement and IP placement in places that people view it differently. And if you nail those two things, you end up with results like what we have seen in crypto. But it's easier said than done. And I think, to your point more recently, it is a uphill climb. You really have to get the buy-in from a lot of people to be able to achieve what folks in this space have achieved, i.e. even a Doge without an operator. The recognition of that is just insane. And I would say that the person who did, the original founding nature of that was probably not as big as it is now. They did not think that was going to happen. That's a little bit of a stream of luck. And so to that point, yeah, there's a little bit of luck and a lot of skill and hard work and effort that gets you to that place.
Absolutely. Tommy?
For me, what Oliver said.
Okay, amazing. Lightning round, because Wall Street Bets put on such an amazing conference. We're going to get some alpha. What should we expect in 2026? Give us something good, Luca.
2026, the year of the penguin. Don't fade.
B.
It will be the year of datifying gaming.
Okay, Oliver's dropping the TGE date. What do you got for us, Oliver?
No date. I don't have any alpha there, okay? Put me on the spot. OpenSea mobile app, and I think in terms of just 2026 in general, I think to Luca's point, I think we will see a resurgence in NFTs.
Amazing. And by the way, my alpha for all you guys, I'm bidding everything here. So I'm bidding Pengu, bidding World of Women, bidding Fight, bidding C when it comes out. Tommy, what's your alpha?
2026 NFA. That's kind of my statement.
Let's go. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you guys. Let's take a quick selfie.